part of the web or app server version 1.44. To access this, when you have the Force connected to Wi-Fi or Ethernet, if you find the IP address of the machine, type in the IP address in your web browser, and it'll take you to this menu. So this menu has quite a few really cool tools, and I'm just going to show you the ones that I have been using that are really helping me out so far. So let's go to the ARPS Manager. ARPS Manager takes a look at your current ARPS patterns folder, and that is actually stored on the EMMC. So you have to kind of be careful with this, meaning that when you load the Force, this gets scanned. So you don't want to really put a lot of files off in there because it affects the load time and adds additional resources to the Force, resource use to the Force. So what I've done is I've tried to go through here and just listen to some of the patterns to see if it's going to be useful to me. And I'm not quite done with that yet. I may actually trim more of these patterns down and upload, just a couple more that are more useful to me as far as pattern wise. I really like this tool because it's visual, and it allows me to use my computer to be able to manage the files. So the one thing about the ARPS Manager for the browser here is that it doesn't instantaneously update once you upload or upload files to it. So you want to kind of do it in advance of trying to use it with the Force. You have to restart the Force service. And the way that you do that is you hold down the Shift button, Edit, and then the up arrow key, which will restart the Force service. And then you can get to work, and you'll see the ARPS patterns in the ARPS viewer. So that's one little caveat to know about using this with the browser feature. So last night I tinkered around with it a bit, just to kind of see how it works. And I don't use ARPS patterns that often in the music that I make. If you've been with me for a while, you know that I kind of use a lot of the things. It just really, whatever is making me feel musical at that point in time. But this was fun to be able to explore using it. So under my Arpeggiator settings, I have it enabled. I have my action set as pattern, and I don't use this that often, so I wasn't even aware that all of these other features were even available in the ARPS area. So that was really just kind of a learning experience completely for me. Over the past couple of years, I normally use the Force for tracking. That's normally what I use it for. It's sitting in front of my desk. I have another machine that sits in a standalone area that allows me to just sit in front of a keyboard and then just push a button and record audio. So it's kind of like a big tape recorder in some sense for me, but I also use it to like really start the creation process, utilize it for using every single feature that's in the machine. So I've made it a point to really try to focus on learning more of the features that have been added over the years that are very useful. And I'm still getting there and learning all of the features that are available. So anyway, we're going to set under action. I selected pattern, and then under pattern, don't want to go back there. Under the pattern area, this is where you actually select where you've the pattern that you want to use. So like the pattern that two of these patterns that I downloaded last night. cool thing about it is that whatever key that you're using, it plays in that key, which is really cool. I mean, this is all MIDI generated stuff. So, in whatever velocity setting you're using, it takes that velocity setting. So this is a really cool tool, and just something I hadn't been using. So it's something I'm gonna have to really explore further. And with all the other features that are in here, I can change the swing settings. I can change the note length. I'm like kind of blown away by how flexible this really is. And I can change the timing, so I can actually make it faster or I can make it slower. So I thought that was really cool. And under normal circumstances, well, not even normal, I would have it at 16ths, but I slowed it down to 1/8, which is a little bit slower. The tempo that I'm using on this track is slow. It's 99 beats per minute, so it's a little bit slower than I'm used to doing. And let me just kind of play a little bit of what this is. So again, I've really been enjoying just learning. Learning really opens up the mind for me, especially when I'm doing something creative. If I have access to a tool that I haven't used before, it allows me to be able to kind of just stretch and see how far I can go with that tool. And I've been doing that a lot lately. I've got a lot of learning to do still with the Eurorack stuff. I'm taking my time with that because I'm having to do a lot of reading ahead of time to learn how to use the modules, which there's just so many of them. But I've also found that I'm going to be able to utilize a lot of AU VSTs that are available for iPad. To be able to make stuff as well. So I can use like my FabFilter stuff. Also, I found that they have Sugar Bytes stuff, which I'm used to using. So I have access to that as effects, which is kind of mind-blowing. I just never knew that there was that much stuff available on iPad that is familiar. I never thought that was available in that way. So I'm still learning that. But this has been like so cool to be able to use with the Force. This VNC viewer is just mind blowing because I've always wanted to be able to like see the Force screen in a larger format, like when I'm working, and not have to depend on the small screen that I'm always viewing at a tilt, which with the lighting that I have in my space makes it really difficult to see. And the more that you touch the screen, the more it gets all fingerprint bound, which makes it even more difficult to see. So this VNC viewer is like is like so cool. I don't run it all the time. You can turn it on and turn it off via the SSH tools. Or via SSH. I'll just show you that. So on the password is going to be Force when you're using it with the Mac. So I'm using Terminal. Terminal is not something people normally know about with the Mac. If you don't know what this is, you can go up into the search feature and just type in Terminal, and it'll bring up this screen. Apple has really been doing some kind of preventative measures with some of the back end features like the terminal. So I did encounter an issue when I initially tried accessing it, and I had to use a command. I'm just going to copy the command over into the screen so you can see it. Oops, let me take that ad out of there. Okay, so this is the command. So SSH-keygen-R and then the IP address of the force. So what that does, every time that you create an SSH session, it is an encrypted session. So what the computer expects is that the key should match the key that you're using when you access it. But if you've never used it before, there's no key. So this will allow you to remove any false keys that are out there. And then when you log in the next time, it'll ask you to verify that the source that you're connecting to is legitimate. So you just say yes to that, and that'll resolve the issue. Other than that, that's a one-time deal. You won't have to do it again because you don't need to generate a new key. So that was the only thing that I had an issue with initially with accessing the SSH terminal. And let me just go to the add-on manager, and I'll show you that how I turn the VNC on and off. This is also the area where you actually install it as well. So if you're doing it as an initial installation, the one that I'm using is the DRM VNC Server 1. There is another one that's available, but from watching Dream Static Sounds videos indicated that was not a good one to use because it's super resource intense. But the DRM VNC server one is a little bit better. It's less resource intense, and that it will allow you to utilize it without too many issues. And I haven't had any issues with it at all, as a matter of fact, since I started using it. So the other thing that you want to be able to use is the manage installed. So manage installed allows you to be able to turn it on and off. And once I'm not using it, I normally turn it off because, again, it consumes resources on the machine. So you can enable, disable it, or if you don't want to have it installed all the time, just uninstall it, and you can always come back in here and reinstall it. So it's really a personal preference thing, really. So those are the kind of the features that I've been just really taking advantage of using the Mockbamod. Also, this viewer, this is not native to the Mac. It's called a Real VNC Viewer. You can Google this. It's open source, I believe, and this copy is free, but there's a paid version. I think it's supported if you wanted to get support or whatever. But it is free, and this is probably one of the most stable VNC viewers I've used to date. You can use Microsoft's RDP client. It supports VNC, but I found it to be a little bit unstable because I've used it for work purposes, and I find it to be kind of unstable on the Mac at times. But this works out pretty well on the Mac. Well, that's all I've got for today, guys. I appreciate you coming and watching and keeping supporting me by liking, subscribing, commenting. All that stuff is super appreciated, and it really helps to help grow the channel. And that is all I've got for this one. I'll see you on the next one.